Well, hi everybody. First of all, just a quick recap over what we went through last week, which was to take the well-known tune, the Atholl Highlanders. I obtained this copy from the Session, a website called simply The Session, and it allows you to print off these traditional music sheets. And as I say, the Atholl Highlanders is definitely one of the most famous of all the Session tunes. And we did one or two alterations, both to the actual melody and in particular to the timing. So here is the adjusted, the amended version. The first two notes, instead of being even quavers, have been made so that the first note is longer to give that dee-dee-dum. And then throughout the tune, the rhythm, instead of even quavers, dotted quaver, semi-quaver rhythm all the way through. So we've got this dotted rhythm, and in bar 7 here, we have the reverse of the dotted rhythm, where the semi-quaver comes first, then followed by the dotted quaver. And this has been known for centuries, this rhythmic device has been known for centuries as the Scotch snap. And it occurs in the A section, the B section here, section C here. No, it's here the melody differs slightly. But then again, at the end of the D section, again, we have the Scotch snap. And again, that was a little alteration that I made. In the original, they're showing it going from a C sharp, change that to an E. And certainly the melody of the third section seemed a bit strange from the norm. Okay, so anyway, there is the adjusted version of the Atholl Highlanders. We've made some major changes both to the melody, but also importantly to the rhythm, to give it a good 6/8 pipe march feel. However, let's have a look at what we do as far as the harmony. Now remember, this tune is in what's known as the Mixolydian mode. The Mixolydian mode that occurs within the D major scale. Here's the D major scale. And within that major scale, if you go to the 5th note of the D major scale and start at A and play from A to A, this is how we obtain the Mixolydian mode. You can start from any note of a major scale and go to the octave higher, and you will get a different mode. If you go from D to D, the major scale, that's known as the Ionian mode. But if you go, say, from the 2nd note up an octave, that would be the Dorian mode. And of course, if you went from the 6th note, that's the Aeolian mode. If you go from the 4th note, that's known as the Lydian mode. And so Mixolydian means one above the Lydian, and so that's the 5th note A going to A. So this is the Mixolydian mode in the key of D, and of course therefore it is the A Mixolydian. Here are the notes of the A Mixolydian, very, very similar to the A major scale, but without the G sharp. Okay, now based on the D major scale, our main 3 chords, if we were basing it on the A Mixolydian, our 3 major chords that occur naturally, or diatonically as we would call it, would actually be A major, A, C sharp and E, D major, D, F sharp and A, D, F sharp and A, and the other major chord, the only other major chord that occurs naturally in the A Mixolydian mode is actually a G major, G, B and D. And of course, that's to be expected because A, D and G would also be the primary triads in the key of D major. But we will harmonise the Atholl Highlanders as if it's in the key of A major for the first 4 sections exclusively and throughout most of the 4th section, although here's where in the 4th section the melody uses the note of G and therefore our harmony will be adjusted. But for the rest of the tune we don't actually have any G natural to play in the melody. There is not a G, therefore the chords that I've gone for are the 3 primary triads that actually occur in the key of A major. A major has the G sharp. So our 3 major chords, our primary triads, are A, which is A, C sharp and E, D, D, F sharp and A, and E, or E7, to make it sound really good. So E, E, G sharp and B. Obviously some small accordions, they don't have 7th chord buttons. So that would be one example of where we would only play the E major, whereas the E7th adds the note D, which is 7 above E, E, G sharp, B, D. And again, on the accordion, we don't have to do anything specific in order to get an E7th, we just need to play that particular button. Okay, so here is the actual melody of the first section, that first section of the tune. And I've named the notes here so that we can see why certain chords would be used. Now, it's typical not to have any chord during the anacrusis, the pickup notes at the start. They're just played by the melody, the rest of the band, and therefore harmony would come in at the beginning of the first bar. And throughout the first bar here, our melody notes are E, followed by E, C sharp and A. And so what we need to do to harmonise that first bar is have a look and see which chord shares those same notes, or which chord shares a majority of those notes. That's not to say that we cannot use chords that don't have any resemblance at all to the notes in the melody in terms of matches, but most cases we go by the melody to determine what notes are in the chord. So because we have E, E, C sharp and A, the A major chord is A, C sharp and E, and A major chord in that first bar would match perfectly with that first bar. In the second bar, again, we've got E, C sharp and A. We've actually got the 3 notes of the A major chord in reverse. So again, we'll continue the A chord for the first half of the second bar. However, in the second half of the bar, on the second beat, the melody goes B, C sharp, D, B, C sharp, D. And so therefore, because we've got the notes of B and D with the C sharp in between, I think E7th, E major or E7th is the best chord to go in there. But that's not to say that's the only one that could go in there. Obviously, if you've got B and D in the melody, we know, for example, that a G chord would fit in there. But let's just go with our E7th for now. Let's keep it to just the 3 chords of A, D and E7th for now. Let's save that G chord for later on. So moving into the next bar, again we've got E, E, C sharp, A, a repeat of the first bar, so obviously A major. Again we've got our B, C sharp, D, we've had that already, we used the E7th. C sharp, B, A, so we've got a C sharp and an A. The B we can treat as a passing note, a note linking 2 notes of the same chord. And so once again, C sharp and A, C sharp and A, a part of the A chord. Again, this bar is a repeat of the first bar and the third bar. This bar, E, C sharp, A, B, C sharp, D is a repeat of the second bar. So again, we would just carry on with A, moving to E7 for this half of the bar. E, A, E, that's this point here where we've got the Scotch snap. Again, A chord has both the A and the E. Finally, we get F sharp, E and D. Again, if we treat the E as a passing note, the main two notes here, F sharp and D, belong to the chord of D. D, F sharp and A, so a D chord fits in there nicely. In this next bar, once again, we've got C sharp, D and B. So the D and the B are both part of the E7th chord. And so, yeah, the C sharp is not part of the E7th chord, but I feel that the E7th chord works best there. We can treat the C sharp as almost like an accented auxiliary note. However, for the next half of the bar, both the A and the C sharp match perfectly with the A chord. For the last note of the bar, we would often go for the D being harmonized with the E7th. So let me pop up now the fully adjusted version of the Atholl Highlanders. Let me go and get my accordion and let's play through the whole of the tune. With the added left hand. So I'll just play through the whole tune. Hopefully you'll be able to follow it through. Remember, each section is played twice. When I arrive at the first time bar here, back up, skip this bar when I come through the second time bar, same with the B section. The C section, we've got an incredibly long first and second time bar because in the other version, the melody differed quite a lot. But again, we would have only required one bar because it's only one bar that's different. And then we come into the final section. Again, we'll just finish on that A. One other thing to explain, when it comes to this A to the E7th, because that is those three notes in the melody are the second beat, we wouldn't have time to do any kind of a vamp, a bass and chord. So we put the bass and chord together of A, bass and chord together of E7. Let me play it through and see if it makes sense. Okay. Okie. Hopefully that made sense for you. Obviously in this last section, it's worth pointing out that the melody here goes B, G, B, B, G, B, and that was a good example of when and where to use the G major chord. So here we are mixing the, if you give the pun, we are mixing the use of the major scale chords with the Mixolydian mode chords. And I think that sounds particularly effective at the end, just using the change to the G, the drop from A to G down a tone, very effective at the end there. The other thing to mention, of course, is that if we were going to play the each section, when we're playing the A chord for the whole bar and then a half a bar, we could just play the same bass note as chord all the way through. So that would sound but typically on the left hand of the accordion we would change the bass note. We would do what's known as an alternating bass. However, if these chords were being strummed on, say, a guitar, then obviously we would just simply hear that chord lasting for 1.5 bars. If the accompaniment, the left hand, the harmony was being provided by a piano, then the pianist would normally alternate bass the same as the accordionist's left hand. Okay, what is an alternating bass? It's when you play an A chord, for example, with an A bass, and then you take the fifth of the chord, the note of E, and play that as the next bass note. So you end up with a pattern of A, E, A, E. And of course, on the standard Stradella bass accordion, that's easily achieved by the fact that the E bass button is right next door to the A bass button. Anyway, let's say that is the sort of finished version, if you like, of the Atholl Highlanders, except that, as I say, if it was being played by accordionists, they might want to see A for the first beat, and then for the second beat they might want to see A with an indication of the alternating bass back to A major, and sometimes some indication of showing that these A and E sevenths, which are played quickly, are done as bass and chord simultaneously to give us this kind of effect. Okay, catch you all again soon. Bye for now.